Yes, that's encouraging. I also want to similarly acknowledge uh, familiar faces I've worked with in the past, given my role in some of the leading corporates and institutions in Namibia. And I also want to acknowledge your presence here. Uh, we thought it very appropriate to have a press conference with you because of the prevalence and high interest that is generated for the corporation that I represent as a chairman of the temporary board of directors. And or rather the board, has taken it upon themselves and resolved that we provide an informative update on Fishcor and its subsidiaries, and to give you an opportunity to stakeholders in the public, as well as the esteemed media, on the developments that concerns our corporation, as well as for you to ask us questions, relevant questions that you want to pose to me. I just want to introduce that we are actually a member of 4. Perhaps we are the smallest board in Namibia. I'm gender challenged because I'm the only male on the board. Ms. Ruth Herunga, the lawyer. Ms. Milka Mungunda, the executive. Dr. Penny Hiulepo van Hal, the fishery scientist. And me, being Heinrich Mierkamp II, an economist. And as you know, we got appointed in June, July, and 6 months down the line, whereby our appointment is still effective till the end, or rather the end of June. But the company secretary will give you the details with respect to that. So if you allow me, I can start with the press statement, and the company secretary, after the press statement, I will assume that I will still take the lead to ask them, or they can ask me questions. And a Q&A will follow. And I trust that you have prepared for them also water and coffee and tea as we go along. I have also realized one thing when I assumed my job as the chairman of the temporary board of directors, that there is not much understanding actually what Fishcor does and what Fishcor is. And as you know, it was established on the 27th of December 1991 in terms of the Act 28 of 1991, promulgated by the National Assembly with the object of exploiting the fish and other marine resources, and in promoting the establishment, development, and efficiency of other businesses that are engaged in a related fishing industry. So it is a heuristic and a legal persona in terms of the Act, and also in accordance with Public Enterprise Act number 1 of 2019, which was promulgated last year. The Act of Fishcor does mandate to form strategic partnerships and to establish its own subsidiaries. Pursuant to that, we did establish subsidiaries and partnerships by empowering Fishcor to carry on its business and in accordance to Section 10, in which actually provide for our appointment of the Public Enterprise Governance Act. Collectively, I can assure you Fishcor actually has got 5 subsidiaries, or rather, let me say 4 subsidiaries which do fall under their controlling shareholding, and 1 associative entity. And collectively, they are called Seaflower Group of Companies. The Seaflower Whitefish Corporation, as you know, the Seacope Freezer, the Namrock, which is the marketing brand, and then Seaflower Lobster Corporation. And it's also a heavily intensive employer. It employs over 800 people at low rates, for example. Fishcor has an associative entity called the Sea Flower Pelagic Processing Pty Limited, which is an entity where Fishcor holds 40% equity interest, and the rest are held by an Angolan-based African Selection Trust, AST, 60% shareholding of SPP. This associative entity, as you know, culminated quite at a high-profile event or judgment, or High Court judgment by the Deputy Judge President Hosea Angola last year, where the judgment painted a concerning picture on the agreements that were signed in 2016 between Fishcor and SPP. As we are speaking right now, the matter is still sub judice, and the board respect the legal route to that respect on this matter, and the case, as you know, is currently before the court. Not on an urgent basis, but it's before the court. I'm quite sure there will be questions that may come pertaining to that. Now, in terms of the strategic orientation of Fishcor, Fishcor has been operating without a CEO for quite a while now. As you know, the former CEO had an eminent departure last year. And now we are actually seized with the strategic imperative to appoint a new CEO. And you will agree with me, given the pressing current strategic, financial, commercial, and operational challenges that Fishcor is busy with. It's quite challenging. But we do it under the guardians of the Managed Republic Enterprise on developing an integrated strategic business plan for 2020 and 2021. As you know, I'm the chair. Now, if I become the CEO, people will say I'm taking over the role of a CEO. But I'm the chair, I'm in charge of governance. CEOs are normally in charge of strategy execution and management to drive the operational completion of the plan. But the expectation is that this plan offers an analytical insight, report on a periodic basis to the minister, explain deviations, and to propose for approval adjustment of targets in a well-motivated, informed, and transparent manner. The point being that going forward, from a governance point of view, and knowing your view also with respect to Fishcor, we've got a common goal of instilling discipline in the management of the public enterprise and to create a result-driven and performance-oriented enterprise with an accountable management. When we started off in July 2020, we've secured quotas. It wasn't easy. In July 2020, there are three elements that concerns to us, which is hake, horse mackerel, and lobster, more particularly. Now, in terms of hake, we have secured over 9,000 metric tons. You might have seen in the newspapers that we secured, that we have sold for the proceeds, given the nature of the work that we do for sea flower whitefish, about 3,000 metric tons. A lot of questions has been asked about at what price. We got the highest bidder at 12,700 per ton, and we have secured actually close to 39 million for that, of which we were pressed operationally to attend to the employee cost and overhead expenses that are contractual and that are obligatory. Of that amount, currently we have put our 21 million into a call account for those operational needs. Now that's for hake. For horse mackerel, we have secured Horse mackerel through SPP, we've secured 5,400 metric tons. 5,000 sometime in July and 4,000 sometime in August. That's 9,000. As you know, we are a minority shareholder on SPP. But the accountability of that 9,000, even though we have requested, has not been communicated to us. That's a matter of concern for us as Fishcor. Because for all the quotas that you receive, in terms of our governance, it has to be accounted for. So that's a matter that is still pending with us. Lobster, if I'm not mistaken, it was about 840 metric tons. That was in December. The lobster in industry. So we have worked hard with respect to that. Because the essence of the story is not really about the quotas that is the concerning nature here. It's the utilization of those quotas and the proceeds and sales of those quotas in an accountable and responsible fashion. And that for us as Fishcor is very important. Given that nature, I have to admit that the seaflower whitefish did encounter an industrial relations activity in December, January. You might have seen the press statements I have issued. But it was to take care of the employees. Employee sustenance is key for us. And indeed, with that quota that I have indicated to you in terms of the hike, we have in time attend to that through the proceeds of sale of those quotas. And we have also then secured the employment given the prevailing conditions of retrenchment in the country. The employment of over 820 employees, over 800 in fact, in low trades. Now there was a concern nature for us as well. As Fishcor, as I said, we care about employees. And there were 655 employees in Office Bay, SPP. And we were asking ourselves, what happened to them? When we made a fact-finding mission in October, we realized that those employees were actually retrenched. They were without jobs. Some were no work, no pay conditions. Some are paying a meager salary of 100 Namibia dollars, which is actually very much disheartening, to say the least. And because of that, we had to find an alternative route of how do we ensure that those employees really are employed. And hence our engagement of Fishcor, by December you might have read, and also hence our resolve. There are only 3 companies: House Mackerel, Gendef, Fishcor, and SPP. And hence, by its own necessity, and to secure the employees of 650, we were able to secure for them employment. It's a positive development because we were able not to retrench any workers to date. Of course, there are challenges, and I'm quite sure there will be questions coming on with respect to that. The CEO position and the interest, the huge interest that this position is actually generating. And sometimes actually I'm very surprised that the information feed that is provided by the distinguished members of the media is sometimes not informative. But I want to inform the development of concerning that. The post was advertised in November. In fact, the closing date was on the 27th of November, 2020. We are conscious of the size of the CEO, the interest that it generated, and taking into account the results that happened in December and January, we're only able to start to focus on this matter in the mid-January. It which was around the 14th of January 2021. And we have undergone actually a very intensive, how can I say, in the human resource language they use it as long listing, yeah, compile all. And based on that, the board has taken its own full responsibility, of course, of the support of the Human Resource Department at Fishcor, to have appraised on those who applied, look at the minimum requirements that that position has, the qualifications, the experience, the exposure in the fishing industry, as per the advert that was advertised. And we have appraised, therefore, and has not shortlisted yet, not shortlisted. Has appraised then on looking at the board directive of the psychometric assessment of 9 candidates that has been identified. 9. Now already the media say, no, this one will be employed. But it's 9. We have not yet shortlisted anyone yet. And based on that psychometric assessment, which will actually be completed this week. Sorry, ma'am? Tomorrow, in fact. We are busy, to be honest, with due respect. Tomorrow. Then only will we then shortlist. And normally, as you know, some of your distinguished members of the media already wrote to me to say how many five people are already shortlisted. I was just wondering, where does the number come from? But of course, we cannot just provide a number. It can be 1, it can be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But we cannot provide a number. But the point is that we will shortlist. And then the interviews, in fact, will be held shortly even, during this month, on those who are shortlisted. So that's a transparent and objective provision of the information, and it's in line with the human resource policy of Fishcor. And we hope that we complete this appointment of the Chief Executive Officer by March 2021. And as you know, even though the board has identified a candidate, there is a procedure that you have to go through when it concerns the CEO position. And there is nothing untoward to it. Please. There's nothing untoward. There's no foul play. It's transparent. It's objective. It's integral. And I know that you have been asking me questions, and I beg your indulgence that I did not respond in a timely fashion. But it's all also to do with the process and the procedure that we have to undertake. Because some of them needs to mature for me to respond. Because you were a little bit ahead of the information feed than me, for example, who is in charge of the information. The freezing of the accounts, as you are aware, we also is in this position whereby the Bank of Namibia has blocked the accounts of Fishcor in terms of Regulation 22A(1)B of the Exchange Control Regulations of 1961. Because the bank has reasonable grounds to initiate its investigations powers as it relates to the violation of the Exchange Control Regulations of 1961. The board hereby fully acknowledges the organs of state. That's not only the Exchange Control but the Financial Intelligence Center, as you know, also the Anti-Corruption Commission, in terms of the investigation, and suffice to add that we offer our full cooperation with relevance to the applicable laws on the provision of the requested information request in order to assist with the full maturity and the completion of the investigation. In conclusion, I want to assure the media and the public that we are really trying to reorient and changing the positive narrative of Fishcor as a corporation, or enhancing the positive narrative of Fishcor as a corporation. We all know that it's currently at the center of the interesting and sometimes undesirable developments that has happened in the economy of Namibia. But we want to assure you that we want to put in place, in effect, so an effective corporate governance architecture, and to recruit a substantive CEO, as well as some of the management, because some of the positions are still vacant. Despite the challenges we face on the financial, on the operational side, we just have to keep going. Because I also want to hasten to add here that, like I said, Fishcor is a corporation. It gets its quota. The proceeds from the sale of those quotas provides revenue, and the revenues are ensuring the financial sustainability of Fishcor. But I get a feel somewhat that Fishcor is not entitled to quotas. No, it can't be. It is by law entitled to quotas. It's a state corporation. It's what you do with it that counts. I also want to then express my thanks to the respective honorable ministers, as you know, Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources, Minister of Public Enterprise, for their invaluable guardians and really strategic policy oversight to turn this company around. And some of you are saying, okay, now maybe one company was liquidated, maybe this one is next. No, it's not. We are not even talking of any liquidation. Our task is to reorient and have a turnaround strategy of Fishcor on a sustainable path. That is our task. Unless otherwise directed, that is. But that's our task. That's a policy oversight currently, and it still stands. I just want to say our door is open. I know you have been talking to me, so my door is open. Some of you I have been working with you for 20 years, so I've got an open door policy about queries, developments, and that we can help each other, the media, the public, and the broader public, the broader fraternity of Namibia. Not only to make sure that Fishcor becomes a household name in a positive light, but also to fulfill its mandate and to contribute to the fishing industry towards the broader economic development of our Namibian nation. So with that, and on behalf of the temporary board of directors, and indeed on behalf of Fishcor, I do hereby thank you, and we trust that the press statement will be made available to you. But I would then ask the company secretary, whilst I'm taking the water, that we open up the Q&A session. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh yeah, I did ask, is somebody here from Namibia? The newspaper. I almost jumped in my shoes when I saw this, but then I realized it's only them who know. So I wanted to ask, where did they get that from?
Is there any truth to that?
No,
That's not true.
no,
You
it's
didn't
not.
get any quotas.
No, we did not. The only quotas we got are the ones that I just told you. But 80,000 quotas. Yeah, that's what they said. Yeah, allocate more than 80,000 metric tons of horse mackerel to Fishcor for the current fishing season. No, unless, of course, you know more than I do. Sometimes maybe I'm less of information fit.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mihe.
Yes.
My name is Kevin.
Mia come up the second. Eh? There is another Mia come up the first, please. The second, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, please.
My name is Kevin. I'm a journalist with England. In terms of the accounts that were frozen, are you in a position to tell us how much these accounts owed and whether there's been any operational and financial challenges as a result?
The financial accounts of Fishcor has not really been positive for, well, ever since we assumed our governance directive. It has not been showing, well, it has been a loss situation. Let me use that word. And the reason is that some of the contractual obligations that Fishcor has incurred are contractual by nature. Some are overhead expenses. Water, electricity you have to pay, no matter what. Employees cost you have to pay, no matter what. Like I said, we've got 820 employees. Only 109 of those are actually temporary. The rest are permanent. We also have got vessel maintenance, the capacity of it, which actually entails money. Hence, I don't want to throw it back, but sometimes the reporting of Fishcor, even though we are trying to turn the company around, has not really been favorable to us in terms of trying to turn the company around. The media reporting. To the degree that we as a new board had actually to plead with the minister that we need quotas to turn the company around. Of which in December, January, eventually, in terms of hake now, seaflower whitefish, maybe that's what you are referring to. Like I said, we got around 39 million. And I tend to address the financial pertinent challenges to the degree that we have the savings of 21 million that we put our way on a call. And we can make that information available to you. However, it has not really turned the company back to its favorable position, and we're working on that. I also have to admit we've incurred some debt obligations that I think for its own commercial contractual nature I will not want to disclose, but that I can assure you that we are working around them to attending to them. Hence, yeah, that's the situation. Any follow-up?
I don't know if you've managed to exploit my question in terms of the amount of money that has been lost or that has been frozen right now.
Okay. Is that what you mean? Okay, because I was actually talking about what I'm in charge of. I cannot confirm or deny that there may have been some monies that may have been used as a conduit through Fishcor. Because as I mentioned, the investigation is ongoing, and I would like to respect the nature, the extent, and the duration of that investigation. And as per their mandate, they are entitled to, through the relevant provisions of their Act, Anti-Corruption, Finance Intelligence Center, as well as the exchange control, to look at those monies. So I'm not at liberty, because they are the ones who is doing the investigation, and they are probably the ones that will be in a better position to answer that question. But we are offering our full cooperation with respect to them. Yes, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kwama.
Mm-hmm.
My question is pertaining also to the frozen accounts. Those transactions, do they date back to the old or the Fishcor, the fish rot events, or has it to do with the recent selling of the quota and the money that you received in terms of those transactions?
That's a very, very relevant question. In fact, if I can answer that directly to you, it has got nothing to do with the operational nature of our account, and as well as the revenue of the proceeds that we have received just recently, as well as the amount that is on call account. That is,
So it's an old,
I will not say it's all. I cannot confirm that. Like I said, I cannot confirm or deny that. But I can reasonably say that from my governance oversight, that it is not related to those amounts that we have. No.
so if you were longer,
Mm.
another question. The Olupale of Kopo, your partner in Seco, I understand that that vessel is still in Spain, not being released to the Namibian fishing waters. What is the situation pertaining to that vessel?
I expected that question to come actually, and I wish that the person that was more in line with that information can come forward. But the you, I, I can I can only answer that on the pretext of there's been a lot of contractual arrangements that has happened before our time, even with respect to that Seco freezer and even the vessel's consent. And I know the vessel is not yet here, but there's another one which is here. We we do have challenges that we are trying to iron out with respect to that. And I can only provide an update later when we're fully exhausted, because it's actually one of the subsidiaries concerning the Seco freezer, which is a subsidiary of Fishcor at the moment. But it is not. It's not a. It's not of a challenging nature. But it is a workable solution that needs to be found with respect to that. But there has been contracts that has been signed in the past with respect to that.
Has it to do with quota? Has it to do with the payment of the vessel?
Both actually. Yeah. Yes, my brother.
Yes.
How are you?
Confidently.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just have just two questions.
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah, the first one with regards to the accounts that we frozen. Is it true that the Fishcor accountant was arrested?
Is it true that who has been?
An accountant for Fishcor was arrested in the recent week with regards to the accounts.
Maybe the company secretary answered that one, because you came from Blue
The
Trade.
accountant might have siphoned somebody or the allegations like that.
The question is there anybody arrested? Ms. Nyogongo?
I didn't quite get the question.
Has the financial, you said the financial accountant been arrested?
No, we do not have an accountant for bookkeeper. Perhaps I can just confirm with the chair the information that you're asking about, because he would always be appraised about the issues of the company.
I do not know of anyone who has been arrested, but maybe there could be a relevance to your question. Yes? I see.
I think the chair
Okay, yeah.
can highlight.
Yeah, they, and I'm gonna go into the legal explanation now. There has been a clerk who have misappropriated an amount of 115,000, of which we, through the internal controls, have taken the necessary steps from a legal point of view to have taken the person through a disciplinary procedure, and the person has been relieved because it was found on reasonable grounds that indeed a theft took place. Maybe that's what you are referring to. But as far as a financial accountant being fired, no. I think it was a clerk in the accounts department, if I'm mistaken. Yeah. So to respond to your question, yes, there has been an instance related to a theft, and the theft was arrested immediately and contained thereof. It's 115. It's 115, 115,000. And I think, given the reasonableness and the accuracy of the approach that we have taken, and the theft confirmed, the money will be recovered through a, how do they call it, a statutory provision of a pension, given that nature.
Can you try to explain that, sir?
That means the money will be deducted from her pension. It was her. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, please. Oh, sorry. I think he wasn't done yet.
The other question relates to SPP. In the past, they have claimed that about 95,000 metric tons, which was supposed to have been given to them, never reached them in the time that the agreement was in force. So in that claim, they say that 95,000 metric tons was stolen, which could be a legal claim in the future. I'm not so sure. And secondly, I just want to understand.
Yeah, I want to understand what's stolen. What do you mean?
They say, we have been quoted in the press a lot of times saying that there is about 95,000 metric tons of cotton that was supposed to come to them when the agreement was in force. But that 95,000 never reached them. I think it's 50,000 metric tons for 2018, 2019. Then on the other year, 20,000 never reached them, another 25,000 metric tons also. In the previous year, where 25,000 metric tons was given to them, and the other 25,000 they say still never reached them. That's 95,000 metric tons. I don't know, I just want to understand what this may mean. Does it mean that Fishcor is liable to that 95,000 metric tons because at that time they were bound by in an agreement that was in force? And speaking about that agreement, I just want to understand whether it's completely now broken out of force, because there are also allegations that it still has to go to cabinet, and then cabinet has to formally terminate that agreement, and then it's terminated and stuff like that. So
Yeah. With due respect, I hope you're following the developments concerning the judgment case of the judge Jose Angulo. You know, I can only, from my point of view, as the chair of the board, I can only attest to the judgment that was delivered. I want to answer, or you want to come? Yeah. The 95,000, 50,000, or 25,000 metric tons, whether that has been a right of approval or not, from the point of view of the judgment that was delivered, was actually proven. Because the judgment actually gave some understandable words like cozy, parasitic, and even point to the point of using the word a corruptive element. And it is in the judgment, if you can follow that judgment, please. But the point being that there were three agreements: cooperation, designation, and the usage fee agreement. And these agreements were done before our time, as you know, as I said also in year 2016. And whether those agreements are enforceable or valid or null and void, that can only be subjected to the court, which is now currently the proceedings in the court. And I'm not able to actually respond to that because it's sub judice. And I would like to respect the outcome of that court with respect to that matter. But I know you wanted to have a follow-up question. Thank you.
I actually just want to make a...
I find it very interesting that people keep referring to the judgment of Judge Mbula, but he was never asked to make a decision on the legality or of the contract. You know, that is only now before the court.
That is before the court, yes. From our point of view, I issued a press statement, maybe Hela, you will know it also, sometime in October, November. From our point of view, we actually welcome the judgment. And from our point of view, we also view it as a irreconcilable difference in terms of the 40 and 60% shareholding that we have. And I think we've made that quite clear. But as far as the legalities, the enforceabilities, the nullifications, the effect or no effect thereof or no force thereof, that we'll have to leave it to the relevant authorities to respond to. And that is now before the court. And as you have seen in the newspapers, we've submitted an affidavit from my side now with respect to that court. Yes. And it's currently before the court as we speak. Yes. Somebody's cell phone is ringing now. Oh, it's my dad. I don't know why he's calling me, so I'm sorry. Okay. Please.
Yes, Mokwana Klaka from the Namibian Sun.
Yeah.
Minister Jooste and AST chairperson, Mr. Lowe, have expressed the willingness for this matter to go to arbitration. The one regarding now SPP.
Yes.
Would you at this, what is your opinion to that? I know that you did submit the funding affidavit, but would you, are you amiable to changing your position on that? That's the first question. And then the wages, outstanding salaries to employees. Have you, what is the process in terms of settling or paying employees?
Well, I mean, because, answering your first question, we follow the legal route. And that actually means procedurally and from our side of view that as Fishcor, there is that particular route that we have followed and no other route with respect to that. And that is before the court. And I would not want to make speculations of it could have been APC, but for us it's quite clear. We follow the legal route, and that is the one that we are unequivocally actually standing our ground for. As far as the employees are concerned, you said the unions and the payments and... Well, I mean, if you freeze our accounts, how do we pay employees? That is now the issue here. So sorry, I'm not directing that to you. But the question as I put forward is that there is reasonable cause to believe, we have a reasonable expectation from the authorities, the organs of the state, Financial Intelligence Center and the Exchange Control Act, that there were violations concerning the account of Fishcor. But those violations are not related to the operational nature of our accounts. Hence, we are actually appealing to the authorities, given that we have reasonable assurance that our current and call accounts is not actually the subject matter of investigation. Let me say it that way. From my point of view now, that's my point of view. And we want to appeal to the authorities that that is not the case. And therefore, that we would like these accounts to be open, which I think with a reasonable degree of understanding, and also the nature of the information that we have submitted to them, that they have requested us to do, we do believe that such a consideration will be given during this week, or hopefully in a reasonable time. And we will then be able to pay. Our task, for me personally, has always been to take care of the employees, first and foremost. A lot of fishing companies retrench employees, but we have not retrenched any. We had challenges, we agree. We had industrial relations tension with the unions, but we resolved them. We have resolved them both in Luwut rates and also in Walvis Bay. I cannot say there are no challenges. They always arise as we go along. But our first utmost priority is to employee sustenance. And that's what the Minister of Fisheries actually give us. It's a policy oversight function. Take care of your employees. And that is what I'm doing as well. And to turn around the company. Thank you. Yes, please. Who is the Namibia? Is it you?
No, I'm not
Okay.
from Namibia. I'm going to ask a question with regards to the substantial investment made into the construction of the SPP factory in Walvis.
Yes.
I wanted to know, will the taxpayer be asked to honor the payment of form part of the payment for the 170 million that is still outstanding?
Taxpayer.
Yeah,
You mean
will the
state?
taxpayer be asked?
You mean the state?
Mm-hmm.
To pay?
Like for this investments for the factory, the SPP factory. in
Well,
Walvis.
again, with due respect, you are presupposing what is in the court process. Yeah, so that is what I cannot also actually indicate that in terms of our act, the taxpayer is bailing us out. It's not. It does. It's in some other acts, GRPF and so on, guarantee and so. But in terms of our cases, it's not. So I cannot presuppose the outcome of the court procedures. It may as well be, but it may not be a taxpayer for that matter. So I cannot presuppose. Unfortunately, I don't have any direct response to your answer, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Brigitte, freelance journalist. I've got
How are you?
You know what? You'd be better off than you are. I don't have all your headaches. But the question is, why did the Fishcor board apparently decide with the fisheries minister
Yes.
to solicit the seaflower pelagic workers away from seaflower to tuna core? Tuna core got a quota, but
Yeah.
these workers apparently sit at home and do nothing but get a salary until the end of March. What will happen after March, and what will happen to these workers? Do they stay at tuna core from 1st of April or revert back to seaflower?
Yes, actually a very good question because, like I said, in July we gave SPP 5,000 metric tons. In August we gave 4,000 metric tons. That's 9,000 metric tons. We could not get an accountability on the part of what the metric tons was used for. And then the condition being was that, quite frankly, from the Minister of Fisheries, is that we need to ensure employee sustenance. In other words, we need to safeguard employees' rights. Because it's a sensitive, volatile fishing industry. As you know, the COVID-19 and so on, the pandemic in Walvis Bay now. Like I said, we went on a fact-finding mission in October, and we have come to believe that those workers were actually let off. They were not employed. They were actually retrenched. By the 1st of September, they were retrenched. And it became a concern in nature for us. Now we are asking, and we have written to AST, what happened to those 9,000 metric tons, of which we never got a response for, up until today. We do read in the press releases about their positions, but the fact of the matter is that it's in black and white. We are asking what happened to those metric tons. Now, having 655 employees out on a street and with no work being retrenched is a matter of concern, not only socially but also politically and economically too. So then we have taken a pertinent direction to ask then what do we do? And this is how actually we have approached you, we approached TUNACO. And then we indicated to them that if there is a possibility to absorb these workers, is there a possibility for them to do so? And with that, we consulted our minister, public enterprise, and also the minister of fisheries. And with that reasonable certainty of an absorption of those employees, we proceeded, or rather, Fishcor is actually allocated quotas. Fishcor doesn't, in fact, it's one thing that also Judge Hosea Angula said. Fishcor is, quotas are allocated to Fishcor. Fishcor does not appropriate quotas. It's allocated to them. And given that we allocated 4,000 metric tons to Fishcor for the purpose of employment, sustainability at TUNACO, and to absorb those workers. I have to admit that currently there are challenges with respect to that, but they have got a beneficial arrangement of no work, no pay, but around 2,500 plus benefits, which I think 2,500 Namibia dollar plus that is just the revenue plus the benefits, medical pension and so on, which we have actually I assured them as workers to do. Now, the pertinent question that you're asking is actually what I'm basically working on. This agreement is up until end of March. You're quite right. Our wish as Fishcor is that we extend it. That's our wish. But we still need to consult the minister. When I saw this, I thought, oh, then the issue is solved, 80,000 metric tons. But it's not. We don't have that. It's not. So the wish that we want to do is to consult and engage the ministers and then find a way that quotas may be appropriated for the sole purpose of keeping those employees going. Because we have also got information last week, actually, as a matter of fact, that some of the employees that were at SPP may actually have been left out in the street. Those that remained. And that's a concern. And our concern is those workers. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, please.
I would like to ask you something, probably personal. You come from a background of the Namibian Competition Commission, where you had a fairly good record. And then you went to the African Development Bank.
Yes, sir.
Also, you had a fairly good record. Are you comfortable and confident putting your foot now in a company whose reputation is so much, mired in a lot of controversy and probably plays more politics than business? Are you worried about your own future, your legacy after this? Thank you.
It's a good question, and it's not related to Fishcor, right? But it's just related to me. For my personal observation, I always believe in contributing my part to the development of this economy. When I was asked to become the chairman of the Government Institutions Pension Fund, you may have seen that there were controversies there as well. 2008, I joined 2011. How we have bridged that gap to make sure that the fund becomes sustainable and to grow. It's possibly growing like 125 billion now. That's now GRPF, if I may speak freely. We have reoriented the contractual nature of how funds are to be dispersed. And the assignment here is similar. The controversies arise from concluding contractual obligations that are not above board or that are not carried out in a proper fashion. And those contracts can bind the Namibian nation to the degree that it actually robs the nation of the much needed resources it needs. And therefore, from that point of view, my task is to ensure that we give an opportunity to the Namibian nation for this company called Fishcor to become an invaluable asset, because it has got a role to play. It's to harvest, it's to exploit, it's to develop, it's to engage in a strategic alliances of other companies, and most importantly, even to be seen outside the country what it is doing in terms of branding, marketing, the Spanish markets, the Japanese markets, the Chinese markets, increasingly. And we need that right now. The economy is in a slump. We need that right now. And that, I hope, is a humble opinion that I want to thank the ministers, the two ministers, as well as the president, for having afforded me this opportunity, and also the cabinet to give me support and guidance to undertake this task. But it's not a controversial issue. Competition Commission was also not controversial. So was an African Development Bank. It's the contractual nature of it that makes things controversial, and we have to resolve it, unfortunately. We have to. Otherwise, this country will never go anywhere. We have to resolve it. Yes, please.
Is it, did you raise 39 million from the auction? I want to, maybe I got that.
We auctioned 3,000 metric tons. The figures can sometimes play tricks on me, but we auctioned 3,000 metric tons, and then we got, per metric ton was 12,700, yes. And that translated close to 39 million.
And this was paid into a call account, and it's not being frozen.
Yeah, our profit and loss, our cash flow runs around plus minus 20, yeah, for everything combined per month. So we were able to save 21, so 19. So 21 we decided to put on call. But it's not enough. And therefore I have to go back, and I want to do it for the right reasons. I want to turn the company around. I also said about debt obligations, of which I may not be at a liberty to disclose, but there are debt obligations that we are looking at, and also the issue of the contractual natures of Seacope Freezer and the Belachic and so on. Yeah, those are issues that we are looking at.
So I just want to understand, this account is not the specific call account. It's not been frozen.
The accounts, all of them are frozen. But we are engaging with the relevant authorities to say, okay, and I think a question was asked here, is it only them or is it the others? So there are two layers. For us, it's the sustainability of our operational accounts, current and call. I believe all of us have got current accounts, check accounts. And then call account you put, which is on call, and then if you need it, you use it, yeah? But then, there are other accounts also. Investment accounts, for example, yeah? So for us, it's about getting the operational and financial side going. So we are in consultation with the relevant authorities to request them to at least unfreeze those accounts, because we have submitted information that actually shows that there is nothing untoward to it. I don't want to use the word it's clean or whatever. But there's nothing untoward for our accounts to be remaining frozen. Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Brahma,
Mm.
just one last. You said that you want to turn Fishcor around.
Yes.
And in your arsenal of subsidiaries,
Yes.
you've got two of probably the world's best fishing companies. The one gained a lot of experience in Angola, AST, and the other one, Koopman, in Spain.
Yes.
SPP,
You said the best, right?
yes,
Okay.
they are,
So
they are.
I'm just
In
responding.
terms of
I'm not
in
confirming.
Yes,
Okay.
in terms of the expertise within the fishing industry.
Yes.
SPP, the plant that they have in Walfish Bay, it's a almost 800 million investment. They are paying Fishcor a usage fee of 8% per ton that you issue them. If you honor the agreement, you as Fishcor can get your 40% return on investment in terms of your shareholding plus the usage fee. Is that not a way to turn the company around?
Ms. Reneke, right?
Rademacher.
Rademacher, yes, from the Republican.
That's
Yes, yes. Ma'am, as I've mentioned, sometimes in a marriage, when two partners don't talk to each other, then it's becoming a matter of concern. And if Fishco has given 9,000 metric tons and it's not accounted for,
But sir,
then where's the confidence?
I've got correspondence here to the Minister of the SOE Minister in June last year, where they explained explicitly their situation. That was put on record what happened to the 9,000 tons issued to them last year.
What happened to that? Because I don't even record.
I will forward it to you.
I will appreciate it.
I remember that I've got these documents on my phone. I will
I
forward
will
it to you.
appreciate it because I have taken the liberty to address a formal letter to ask what happened to the 9,000 metric tons. It was never responded to. Maybe I was not of an understanding fashion to receive that information. Maybe, I don't know. But I have requested a formal request. It was done in October, I remember.
But you still haven't really answered the
No, I'm trying to answer the question. If there is no confidence in terms of the partnerships,
Why is there not confidence?
because of something like that, for example, because I came in July, gave 5,000, came in August, gave 4,000, we got 9,000, and it has not been accounted for. We don't have it. Yeah, but you said you have it. We have due respect. We have due respect. I don't have it, unfortunately. Yes.
I just have a question.
Maybe let's scream a bit. Yes.
Okay, I'm Joseph Ilonga from One Africa TV. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir.
Yeah.
All right. I just have a question in terms of Fishcor's rebranding strategy. I think you kind of touched on it a little bit. But in terms of Fishcor's rebranding strategy and scheduled campaign to restore the public's faith in the SOE, and with the ongoing recruitment process of a new CEO of Fishcor, in terms of the qualities that you will be looking for in this new CEO, and as the chairman of the temporary board of Fishcor, do you agree that the CEO should be one who is, or the incoming CEO should be one who is apolitical, seeing that the public has this view that the ruling party was actively involved in running the affairs of Fishcor? So how do you plan to separate that political affiliation of the ruling party to Fishcor in terms of your rebranding strategy?
Okay. I may need to correct myself here. The rebranding strategy has not yet been formally approved. Yeah, it doesn't have to be. But then, they have a name called Wave of Opportunity. Yeah? Isn't that the logo? Wave of opportunity, right? Wave of quality. Okay. But coming to your question, which is quite a relevant question, if you look at the requirements that we set out in the advert, it is quite clear. We are looking for someone with a knowledgeability concerning the fishing industry. We're also looking for someone with a reasonable qualification that speaks to the executive experience that they have. And we're also looking for someone that will be able to strategically execute with, with the support of the board, come up with a strategic plan, and also in concert with what we call the integrated business plan that the Ministry of Public Enterprise wants in terms of the shareholding, can actually execute those plans with ease. I cannot define the word apolitical. I don't know what you meant by that, but from my point of view, is about someone who can actually turn around the company and make sure. And I think there is this misconception, actually, to be honest. I think we all belong to one political affiliation or one another. I mean, I also belong to one. But, your task that is bestowed upon you must make you seem that you, what's the word, having an independent judgment, yeah, and foresight in terms of the execution of the duties that is been bestowed before you. Yeah. So, yeah. Yes. And I've got lots of them. You mean my article? Okay, the front page, yes. Yeah.
Has this very strong connection, or this strong affiliation to the ruling party. So from a marketing point of view, for example, if you had to rebrand yourself, would you not agree that it would be good to have someone who has no political ties, at least within the public arena, someone that is apolitical, just objective, seeing that the public has now politicized this whole thing of Fishcor? Like, would you agree that the next person or the incoming CEO should be one who is not even necessarily from the ruling party, for example?
Are you asking me or are you asking for the CEO? Because I'm also chairman, no?
Yes,
Chairman of the board.
Yes, temporary board, in terms of your assessment of the new person, the type of qualities that this person has, because someone could come from, they could have all an expertise that you're looking for, but the image that this person might have, within the public might not be good for, Fishcor, looking at the current situation around these allegations, of fish rot and everything else.
You put that question to us. I mean, as a chairman of the board, I was the CEO myself. Namibian Competition Commission, Bridget, and I did it in terms of the competition law, due diligence, competition enforcement. So it can be done. But I'm also politically affiliated. But it doesn't take away my judgment of character. So it is a judgment call. Yeah? African Development Bank, Government Institutions Pension Fund, National Planning Commission, President's Economic Advisory Council. I've been there. So I'm also chairman of the Communications Regulatory Authority of Namibia. So I can only speak for myself, that's what I'm saying. So there is a judgment call. It's all about integrity and fairness, and also how you deal with your work. Right? That's all I can say at the moment, honestly. Yeah. Any questions? Maybe at this time, Mr. Nekungo? Maybe one or two, and then we can break. Yes.
We'll
We'll be together.
Mr. Guamov, yes, I found those documents on my phone, and I see here that you were indeed copied on those correspondence, but I will forward it to you.
Please forward it to me because I don't have it, and it is the case.
Have you forwarded it to me now, or still gonna be? Okay, yeah. Please forward it to me because I needed that. By, but it's not directed to me. It may have been carry copied, but not directed. That much I know. Yeah, because I wrote directly. Yeah. So I will expect the equivalent response, if I may, but it's not for our dialogue, it's not for our debate. Just if you can forward it to me, I can have a look at it. Okay, I will then, at this juncture, I'd like to thank you all for coming at this Monday afternoon. And I hope this will be the first of the engagements that we're going to have. Please know that, as I said, our open door policy is important, because I also realize that if there is no feedback or transparency or communication, then sometimes some information gets a little bit clouded. So I want to set all the records straight, and I want to assure you of my utmost cooperation. And please, you have my number. Even if you don't respond to me, leave a message. And I know I'm dealing with quite a lot of you. But there was a reason why it took long to respond. Yeah. So thank you for coming. There is some coffee and tea, please.